Hey everyone, Matt from Stronger You Personal Training here, and today we're going to be talking about 2 crappy cues for deadlift and how you can fix them. So first cue we're going to talk about is chest up. So really common cue you'll see in deadlifting comes from lifters who maybe get stuck a little bit more rounded over and they're not engaging their lats properly, and it leads to a bit of a sort of scared cat deadlift going on. Maybe not the greatest for your spine. It's a separate debate for a separate video, but nonetheless, as a general rule, especially with lifters who are just starting out, we want to teach them how to separate their spine from their hips and have a somewhat neutral spine in their deadlift. So what we'll see a lot of times with lifters where they think about chest up is they just simply hyperextend their spine and there's still no tension in the right places and they're just wrenching on their lower back in order to get the extension. So they'll sit here, they'll try to lift up their chest and they'll simply do this, and then they'll start to pull, and because there's no abdominal pressure, no stability, their back will change position from extended to flexed pretty much right away. So important concept to consider here is that your abdominal pressure is going to help secure that canister position, and that's going to hold you into a relatively neutral spinal position as you deadlift. So if you're setting that beforehand, all you're going to do is maintain that pressure and maintain that canister position as you set up for your deadlift, and you're good. And you don't have to really worry about adjusting your spine at the bottom. So if you're braced properly and you're engaging your abs well and engaging your lats well, your spine is going to be where it needs to be. So how do we address this? So instead of going down to the bar, rounding over, and then trying to fix it and arching up and then overextending or not, right? We're instead going to start from the top. Try to find your brace, and so kind of quick recap on things we've covered in previous videos. You're going to make a little C-clamp out of your fingers. You're going to make a scratching motion against your obliques and the front aspect of your abs, and you're going to try to get all of that really firm, so it should feel tight. Now from there you're going to breathe in. You should feel that whole stiff canister expand a little bit without losing tightness, so it'll still be firm. And then you're going to work your way down to the bar without changing that stiffness. So it'll look something like this. So I'm stiff, I can feel 360 no matter where I poke, it's all tight. And then I'm going to work my way down to the bar, and there, great, I can grab onto the bar. And that's sort of the first place we want to look. So instead of chest up, think about creating stiffness from the start so you don't have to worry about the rest of it as you go through. You have a good spinal position to begin with, and you're setting up with that. Second cue we'll see is pull back. So really common with lifters who the bar gets out in front of them a lot, where they'll start their deadlift and maybe they're over here and they'll need to pull back in order to get the bar close to them, right? Or they simply need to pull back at lockout to get the hips to fully straighten. Both of those are valid, and while I don't disagree with the pull back cue, I think it gets lost on people a little and they tend to overextend a lot at lockout. And really kind of overemphasize that component. So the way I like to coach this is I'll look at 2 parts to a deadlift. So there's a push component where you're pushing with your legs through the floor, kind of this way on a 45. And there's a pull component where you're pulling with your lats, pulling with your hamstrings, pulling with your glutes, back on a 45 this way. So instead of thinking about my deadlift this way, I'm actually going to think about it this way, right? So in a sumo deadlift, you're going to try to think about even amounts of push and pull at the same time. That's because your torso is already a little bit more upright than a conventional deadlift, and you can push with your legs as you pull with your back, and your whole body as a unit is going to come up. So it'll look something more like this. I'm here, I'm thinking about pushing my feet through the floor, and I'm pulling my lats this way towards the top of the mirror over here. So a push and a pull together balances me out, stops me from over pulling, where if I were to pull back on this cue, on this deadlift style, without addressing anything else, I'm obviously going to over pull, my toes are going to lift, and I'm going to overuse my lower back to extend at the top and not bring my glutes through, right? In a conventional deadlift, similar premise, but we're generally going to pull a little bit and then push and pull to finish. So the first half of my lift is pull with the hips, and then I'm finishing by pushing and pulling together, right? So you're going to have obviously a higher hip position and closer foot stance in your conventional deadlift. You can go through those bracing drills we were talking about a moment ago with the chest up cues, right? And you're here, pull, and then push with your legs to finish, right? Now the advantage with that is because of where your body weight sits, by pushing your legs to finish, your hips are going to pop through easier. Your quads and your glutes are going to work together to lock out that deadlift instead of just relying on your pullers with your lats and your glutes and your hamstrings to finish the lift. So to recap, instead of chest up, fix your start position to where you don't have to do chest up in the first place. Get a rigid brace and then set up. And then fixing the pull back cue, there's a push and a pull together. On sumo, they're at the same time through the duration of the whole lift. On conventional, you're going to pull first and then finish with a push and a pull to lock out the hips. Hope that helps. Thanks, and we'll see you next week. Finally, last thing I want to bring up is we've got a great Facebook group called Starting Powerlifting. It's got a wide range of lifters, everyone from people who've just started out with powerlifting or are interested in getting into it, up to lifters who've been lifting for 10 or more years. If you're interested to post a form video or asking about form feedback, questions about lifting or programming in general, or if you want to contribute to the community and help out other lifters, feel free to give the link in my bio a click or take a look in the description if you're on YouTube. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.